everyone, welcome back to our channel Arunodayam Creations. Today we are going to learn about excretion in case of plants. Excretion in case of plants. Do plants excrete like animals? Of course, plants are also living organisms. In their body also so many metabolic activities takes place. At the end of metabolic activity, some waste materials are produced. So like all other living organisms, these plants also has to remove these metabolic waste materials to outside. So plants also perform excretion process. Then does plants have specific organs to excrete these waste materials? No. Plants do not have any specific organ to release these waste materials, but they will make use of their general body parts to release these waste materials. They will use already existed general parts for releasing these waste materials. So for our convenience, now we categorized the waste materials produced in plants into three types. So three types of waste materials are produced in case of plants: gaseous waste materials, water waste, and solid waste. First, gaseous waste materials. We all know that oxygen is released as a byproduct during photosynthesis. That means it is released as a waste product during photosynthesis. And carbon dioxide is released as a waste product in case of respiration. So oxygen and carbon dioxide, both of them will be removed from the plant body through the stomata present in the leaves and lenticels present on the stems. Actually, we know that these two organs are useful for respiration, but plant uses these two organs for removing their waste materials. That means they are removing their gaseous waste. Okay, so this is how the waste materials in case of plants will be removed. Next, water waste. Extra amount of water is present in plant body and it is removed by transpiration and guttation processes. Okay, we already know about transpiration. Extra amount of plant is removed from the plant body in the form of water vapor. Water in the form of water vapor, that process is called as transpiration. And if water is removed in the form of water droplets itself, then that process is called as guttation. So by these two processes, the plant will remove water waste from their body. Next, coming to solid waste materials. So during metabolic activity, so many solid waste materials are produced in case of plants. These waste materials are stored in their plant parts, in their body parts like leaves, bark, fruits. So after some time, by falling off these leaves, bark and fruits, the plant will remove the solid waste materials from their body. Sometimes waste materials are stored in fruits in the form of a solid bodies called as raphides. So sometimes solid waste materials are stored in the form of raphides in fruits. We have to appreciate plants. They are brilliantly using their own waste materials for their own benefits. For example, the waste materials which are stored in plant parts, for example, they are storing them in their fruits. They are called as raphides. Why they are storing these waste materials in fruits? For defensive mechanism. We all know that herbivorous animals prefer to eat plant parts. If these waste materials are stored in fruits or some other parts of plant, they are unpleasant to eat for herbivorous animals. So herbivorous animals do not prefer to eat them because of their unpleasant taste. Okay, even though if the herbivorous animals try to eat the plant parts in which these waste materials are stored, they are toxic and they cause harm to the herbivorous animals itself. So by storing the waste materials in their body parts, the plants are protecting themselves from herbivorous animals, protecting themselves from being eaten by herbivorous animals. Okay, so plants are using the waste materials for their defensive mechanism. And sometimes plants uses their waste materials to seal their wounds. For example, gum. So if plants has any injury, they will produce gum and seal their wounds. In order to repair their wounds, they will use that waste material. Gum is a waste material actually. It is useful for seal the wounds and also prevents the entry of harmful microorganisms. Okay, and the chemicals present in the waste materials are useful for attracting some organisms which are useful for pollination and seed dispersal. So the waste materials which are stored in plants are sometimes having chemicals. They will produce a fragrance which will attract other organisms like insects or birds, which are further useful for pollination and seed dispersal. And sometimes these waste materials are useful for symbiotic nutrition also. Okay, you know that in case of leguminous plants, the roots have root nodules. These roots actually produces some chemical waste material called as leg hemoglobin, which will attract the rhizobium bacteria which is present in the soil in the surrounding areas. The roots releases a waste material called as leg hemoglobin, which will attract the rhizobium bacteria present in the soil. So by attracting this rhizobium bacteria, symbiotic nutrition is possible. These rhizobium will enter into these roots and they produces root nodules and they will fix nitrogen for their growth. So in that way also plants are making the use of their waste materials. Think about excretion in case of plants. So we categorize their waste materials into 3 types and we have discussed how they are removed from their body also. In the next video we are going to learn about primary and secondary metabolites. Actually primary metabolites are useful for the growth of the plant itself. We are going to learn about secondary metabolites in case of plants. They are also waste products. How these waste materials are useful for plant or how these waste materials are useful for mankind, we are going to discuss in our next video. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Jai Hind.